Joining us on the line now is Ellis Schuman. He's an American-born Israeli author, travel writer and book reviewer. His short fiction has been nominated for the Pushcart Prize. He's with us on the book show to talk about his new book, Rakia, Stories of Bulgaria. It's a collection of heartwarming and culturally illuminating stories that introduces readers to Bulgaria. Welcome to the book show, Ellis.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
It's nice to have you with us. So what's your connection to Bulgaria?
Well, it came as an unexpected turn of events in my life. As you noted, I'm born and raised in the United States. I moved to Israel as a teenager. I lived my entire adult life in Israel, raising a family, working both in the hotel industry and online marketing, until one day my job was relocated to Sofia, Bulgaria for a 2-year period. And my wife and I moved there. And it was a complete change from our home in Israel. And it shocked us how much we fell in love with the country. So even though I'm back in Israel, I still think about Bulgaria all the time, and especially in my writing.
Oh, nice. So how was it different to where you were used to in Israel?
Well, there's so much nature in Bulgaria, the mountains, the rivers, the beautiful seashores, and plenty of hiking opportunities. Completely different climate. The people are very hospitable. Of course, speak a completely different language, but we managed to do everything in English. It was just fine. And there's so much to see, so much history, picturesque villages, strong regard for religion, heritage. It was a completely unique experience.
Oh, nice. And have you been back since?
I have. We have. We've gone back a number of times to visit people, friends, but also to see parts of the country that we didn't see. I went on a 1-week hiking expedition in the Rila and Pirin Mountains, something I always wanted to do while we were living there, but never had a chance. It was very inspiring and inspired a lot of my stories and writing by experience all these different things.
Yeah, lovely. So the book is called Rakia, which I'd not heard of before, but it's actually the country's traditional alcoholic drink.
That is true. That is true. It's something that we didn't exactly know how to understand when we first drank it, but over the course of the 2 years I was there, it became part of our evening meals. I grew a strong liking to the drink. It's produced commercially, but the best kind of rakia is actually homemade, made by residents, villagers in their garages, in their basements, from grapes, apricots, cherries, all different kinds of fruits. It's a drink. Rakia is a drink that you raise to toast each other at the start of a meal. And I miss it. I haven't had rakia since I've been back from Bulgaria.
So is it like a wine or more like a spirit?
It's like a spirit. There's similar drinks in Turkey and Serbia, and even in Italy, there's certain kind of drinks like it. Certainly like a spirit.
Nice, but it's fruity, it's sweet.
Yes, yes. Well, it's strong. Let's put it that way.
Oh, and is it clear or is it coloured? Is it red kind of colour?
It's relatively clear, yeah.
Okay. Oh, interesting. I'll have to track it down, but I'm assuming it's one of those things that you can probably only get in Bulgaria, is it?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, funny. So why did you decide to write these stories? There's 12 stories in the book.
There are 12 stories in the book taking place in Bulgaria. They all take place in Bulgaria, but they come to the subject of Bulgaria from different directions. Some of them are told in the voices of native-born Bulgarians who are just going about their normal lives in the country. And others, and probably the majority, are told in the voices of people visiting and experiencing Bulgaria for the first time, outsiders who come on short trips or extended stays in the country for whatever reason. And they, like me and my wife at the time, see Bulgaria for the first time, meet its people, learn its history, experience its culture and traditions. And I was able to express this in my writing, hoping to, within 12 stories, to give a total picture of what Bulgaria has to say to the world.
Yeah, interesting. So let's talk about some of the stories and some of the people in the stories. There's one about two neighbors competing to see who makes the best alcoholic drink.
Yes, that's the opening story of the book. It's the story from which the book gets its name, Rakia. Rakia as a drink does not feature in all of the 12 stories, but it in the first story, it does tell about the production of Rakia, but it's more about the former friendship of two neighbors and how they are competing to see who can produce the better drink, and how their efforts bring them back together and they can reestablish their friendship, which has been long lost. So the story is about two friends, but the drink that they're holding in their hands is Rakia.
Okay. And what about the femme fatale who disappears at an international writers' conference?
Yes. So there is an actual international writers' conference in Sozopol on the eastern Black Sea coast of Bulgaria. And I never did attend. I was not a famous author to be invited there. But I envision a story of an Israeli author, possibly at the end of his literary career, is invited to speak at this conference, and he meets a young Bulgarian woman who he may or may not have an affair with, and who disappears, and maybe she has turned up dead, and he is possibly the person who has committed the crime, and we're not sure if that actually has happened.
Oh, okay. There's also one about a Syrian refugee who works in a Sofia bakery.
Yes. There are actual Syrian bakeries in Sofia. I've visited them. And I envision a story. Of course, the civil war in Syria made headlines throughout the last decade or so. And I envision a Syrian family having fled their country, looking for a better life in Europe. And Bulgaria possibly is not necessarily the final destination, but they make their home in Sofia. He actually was a doctor, a pediatrician in Damascus, but in Bulgaria, he joins his brother in running a bakery, and they bake pita. Pitot are flat pocket bread, and one day an Israeli happens to walk into their bakery to purchase pita, and it brings to an unexpected meeting between Israeli and Syrian former current enemies, and how they will manage on the streets of Soviet Bulgaria.
Fascinating. How about the two brothers hunting a killer bear?
Yes, well, when we were in Bulgaria, we actually did see some bears, but they were not wild. We saw bears that are kept in captivity, but there are wild bears in the mountains, Rhodope Mountains in the south. So I envisioned one bear going on a spree to kill and end up killing a villager, and one brother is a regional police officer who's entrusted with the mission of tracking down that bear, and his brother comes from Sofia to join him, and we learned that the brothers have lost connection with each other. The older brother, the police officer, looks down on his younger brother, but going on a hunt together to look for this bear, this killer bear in the woods, brings the brothers back together in an unexpected way.
What about the elderly war veteran ashamed of his actions during the Holocaust?
Well, this is the story Forgiveness, which is the story in the book. This is something about a very real period of Bulgarian history during World War II, and something my wife and I learned about when we lived in Sofia. We did not know about this history, that Bulgaria, while aligned with the Nazis during World War II, managed to save its entire Jewish population. 50,000 Jews lived in Bulgaria before the war. None of them were deported to the death camps, Nazi concentration camps. And this was an unusual story So I wondered what would happen if an Israeli learning about this story for the first time, how Jews survived the Holocaust in Bulgaria, would happen to meet a Bulgarian who served in the army, the Bulgarian army during those years, and may or may not have been responsible for sending Jews from Eastern Europe, from Bulgaria, from neighboring Greece and Macedonia to their death in the death camps in Poland. What would happen if the two of them met? That's the background for the story Forgiveness.
Oh, great. And finally, I want to ask you about the story to do with the mother who pickpockets tourists to support her daughter.
Well, unfortunately, on the streets of Sofia, there are many Roma, people who are living in Bulgaria but not exactly enjoying the benefits of Bulgarian citizenship. This is a mother who has a daughter, Mirela, who has a speech impediment. And the mother, of course, wants to take care of her daughter, but doesn't trust Bulgarian authorities to do so. She is takes to the streets to pickpocket. And the money she gains from these efforts are used to support herself and her daughter because no one else can. And the question is, what will happen to the two of them in the future? Is there a future for them in Bulgaria? It's a question I raise. I don't know if there's an answer today for that question.
God, some great stories there. It must have been fun coming up with all the different characters and ideas.
Yes, it was. And I also was curious as to how native Bulgarians would relate to my stories as an outsider looking in. And the feedback has been very positive, both about the general stories and in particular, about the story that relates to Bulgarian history, where I told what went through their country during those years. And I seem to have done it pretty much on the spot.
Oh, that's great. That's lovely to have feedback from native Bulgarians.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, what's next for you, Ellis? Have you got ideas for your next project?
I am continuing to write primarily short stories. I've written 2 novels in the past, both of them set in Bulgaria, suspense novels, Valley of Thracians and the Burgas Affair. But I'm continuing to write short stories, both flash fiction and longer short stories. Not all of them set in Bulgaria. Many of them are set in Israel and other places. And I see myself continuing to write and creating through fiction.
Great. Well, it's been lovely chatting with you today. Thank you for being with us on the book show. And if listeners want to get a copy of your book, it's called Rakia, Stories of Bulgaria, and it's available on our website, tre.radio. It's by Ellis Schumann, who we've been chatting with today. Ellis, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.